we are all thinking about the current and ongoing tragedy in California today. And I would like to have a brief moment of silence now for those who are affected.
House Speaker Paul Ryan honoring the victims in San Bernardino. He spoke at last night's lighting of the Capitol Christmas tree in Washington. Welcome back to CBS This Morning. Norah O'Donnell is leading our coverage from San Bernardino this morning. And in just a few hours, Representative Ryan will make his first major address as Speaker. He will describe what he sees as America's biggest challenges.
Congress is under new pressure to act to prevent mass shootings. Before traveling to California, Norah spoke to President Obama at the White House. The president said there are things that can be done to stop these attacks.
We have a pattern now of mass shootings in this country that has no parallel anywhere else in the world. And there are some steps we could take, not to eliminate every one of these mass shootings, but to improve the odds that they don't happen as frequently. Common sense gun safety laws, stronger background checks, and for those who are concerned about terrorism, some may be aware of the fact that we have a no-fly list where people can't get on planes, but those same people who we don't allow to fly could go into a store right now in the United States and buy a firearm, and there's nothing that we can do to stop them. That's a law that needs to be changed.
House Speaker Paul Ryan is with us now from Capitol Hill. Mr. Speaker, good morning.
Good morning, Charlie. How are you this morning?
Good. Well, the community is grieving, as you know, and the nation is asking questions about why and how do we stop this, and we want to hear from you on that. But why don't you, after you make your speech today, call the president and say, I'm going to come down Pennsylvania Avenue. Let's you and I start off and do something about this right now. I'm the Speaker of the House, you're President, you're in your fourth quarter, and I'm in the beginning of my job as Speaker.
Well, first, Charlie, this is just a horrible event. I mean, my stomach turns like any American when they see this kind of violence. And you can't help but watch this on TV and yell at the TV and say, what can we do to prevent this from happening? So obviously, we're thinking those things. This particular shooting in San Bernardino, there's just too much unknowns before we speculate about the origin of this one. But what we have seen in a common theme among many of these mass shootings is a theme of mental illness. And we need to fix our mental illness laws, our policies. They're outdated. And that is something that we are working on right now. We're moving a bill through the process here, the Murphy legislation, because we think that's one of the more consistent and common themes, which are people with mental illness are getting guns and conducting these mass shootings. Now, without knowing the facts in San Bernardino, we also know that there are homegrown jihadists. We also know that there are ISIS inspirational events. And we needed to figure out how to handle that as well. So there are multiple things that need to be addressed. And we are working on those that need to be addressed, including whether somebody is coming here or inspiring someone to do these things because of their ideological or religious reasons, or the mental health issue, which we know is a common theme among these shootings, and that's something we're working on right now.
I suspect a lot of people would agree with you on that, and most people would agree with you on that. But here's what the president said, and the reason I suggested there might be a conversation between you and the president. He said, we have a no-fly list where people can't get on planes, but these same people whom we did not allow to fly could get into a store right now in the United States and buy a firearm, and there's nothing we can do to stop them.
Well, on this particular issue, we do have a Constitution. Citizens have a due process rights, and anyone can just be arbitrarily placed upon the no-fly list. In fact, that's happened quite a bit. People have been placed on the no-fly list mistakenly, innocently. So we need to respect due process. So when we rush to act on these things, let's make sure that we act accordingly. Let's make sure that we act according to citizens' rights, the Constitution. Oh, and let's make sure that what we do actually solves these problems. So that is why I think we need to take a pause and see what's happening. This is why we're working on mental health already. So with respect to the no-fly list, I think it's very important to remember people have due process rights in this country, and we can't have some government official just arbitrarily put them on a list. And by the way, if someone is suspected of terrorism, if someone in this country is planning a terrorist attack, or we think they're planning a terrorist attack, we should arrest them. So this is something that should be dealt with by law enforcement in a more pronounced position than maybe, you know, banning due process rights on a no-fly list. If we think someone's going to commit a terrorist attack, we should go pick them up.
I know, I hear you, Mr. Speaker. We all hear you, but I've heard many people have stopped me and said this. Gail, we know how the story's going to go. We're going to hear the stories of the heroes who survived. We're going to hear the stories about the victims. We're going to hear the stories about the shooters. But
right,
ultimately,
and then nothing gets done.
But
right.
ultimately, that's right. Nothing changes.
That's
Surely
right.
there can be something that can stop people from getting an AK-47. In this particular case in San Bernardino, it's being reported that 2 of the weapons recovered were bought legally in this country. What is it going to take to move the needle in Congress, I guess, is the frustration people are asking.
That's what I'm just trying to say, Gail. What we're trying to do is find out the facts and make sure that what our response is actually addresses the problems without infringing upon the rights of law-abiding citizens. That's the key here, Gail.
But it keeps happening. It keeps happening.
And
It
how
keeps
long will
happening,
it
but
take
we
you
also
to-
have citizens who have rights to be protected.
Okay.
And again, Gail, one of the common themes here, this is why we're really serious about our mental health legislation.
Yes.
Because a lot of these people are getting guns who are mentally unstable, who should not be getting guns. And this is a gap in our laws that we feel needs to be filled. Look, if you're not outraged when you turn on the TV and see these shootings, there's something wrong with you. And so we just want to get it right, Gail, and we want to make sure that we don't violate a person's rights if they're a law-abiding citizen.
But can I just say this to you? A mass shooting is described as 4 or more victims.
Right.
According to shootingtracker.com, just the fact that we have a shootingtracker.com, I think, speaks volumes. Since January, there have been at least 354 mass shootings in this country. You must be frustrated as well.
Yeah, I am, Gail. That's why, again, I don't want to keep saying the same thing over and over.
Yeah,
but one of the things we've noticed, there are mental health issues here. We haven't fixed these laws in years. They're discombobulated. They don't make sense. And people who should not be getting guns, who are clinically diagnosed with mental instability, with mental illnesses, are slipping through the cracks and slipping through our system, and we need to patch that. And then when we talk about making sure that criminals, people that should not get guns, don't get guns, we need to make sure we keep enforcing those laws, and there's gaps in that enforcement.
Mr. Speaker, how urgent is it, and what is it required to make sure that people will not be saying a month from now, we're facing the same situation?
Well, we're receiving some resistance from our mental health bill right now as we speak.
Well, you talked to the President about the mental health bill, and the
so
President will talk to you about his own concerns about who is allowed to get what kind of guns.
Right, and by the way, that's part of the mental health bill. That's part of the discussion surrounding the mental health bill, which is who gets guns and who should get guns. But we have to make sure that in our rush to do something, we don't violate a person's individual rights in this country.
That's
why this no-fly list issue is about due process
and all
rights.
members of the executive division of the government are equally concerned about violating people's rights?
Well, some proposals here do violate people's rights. The no-fly list is a perfect example. So we're going to violate a person's rights without giving them any due process. So you have to think these things through before we just have knee-jerk reactions. That's my point.
And what about the people that aren't mentally ill that are committing these crimes?
Well, the question is, are they people who are criminals who got guns illegally? Are they people who were barred from the law from getting a gun, but they got it anyway? Therefore, we have a gap in enforcing our laws. But then again, is it a law-abiding citizen who are exercising their rights who all of a sudden snapped or something like that? You're never going to have in a free society the ability to prevent anything, to prevent everything you want to prevent.
And the President said that.
In a free society, you're going to have problems. The question is, in a free society, while protecting our individual rights, are there gaps in laws? Are there gaps in enforcement of laws that need to be filled? That's what we're looking at right now.
You're going to speak to the Congress today, this afternoon around, I assume, 12:31. Where do you put this as a priority for you and the Congress?
So here's my concern about everything. I don't think the country's headed in the right direction, Charlie and Gail. I really believe that we're on the wrong track. I really believe that we are at risk of severing this legacy of leaving the next generation better off in this country. We would be the first generation to do that, and we're on track to doing that. And so I feel that we here in Congress, if we don't like the direction the country is headed on any number of issues, then we can't just be an opposition party yelling no. We have to be a proposition party, and we have to show people what our ideas are. So we need to be big, we need to be bold, we need to be specific. And in 2016, we have an obligation to give the people of this country the choice so that they can choose what direction the country goes. That's what I'm going to lay out today, which is we are an opposition party, yes, but here's how we become a proposition party. And more importantly, here's how we give the choice to the people of this country so that they get to decide the direction the nation is going on a whole range of issues: poverty, economic growth, upward mobility, affordable health care. We have to say to the country, here is a better way forward, and if you agree with us and you choose us to lead, then we will do this. We need a mandate, and we need to offer people a choice, and that's the kind of vision I'm going to be laying out this afternoon.
So when will you talk to the president?
I talk to the president fairly regularly, actually. I don't know. I call him sometimes, and he calls me sometimes. So I don't have something marked on my calendar.
Thank you, Speaker Ryan.
We
Great
talk
to hear
fairly
from you.
often.
Thank you very much, Speaker Ryan,
Thank
for
you.
your time today. We really do appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks, Gail. Thanks.